I'm R.A. Schwartz along with Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr show where it's all about the W. Really excited to continue to share the stories of current and past WNBA players. Today our guest is Quacy Timmons, but you might know her as Quacy Barnes, the former WNBA player for the Seattle Storm, Phoenix Mercury, and Sacramento Monarchs. She has over 17 years of experience coaching college basketball, and if you like college basketball, she's an Indiana University legend. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. While you're over there, check out our overseas tracker. It's live now, and you can see where your favorite WNBA players are playing overseas all in one place. And one last plug, our free agency tracker, the best there is. Thank you, Ben Dole, for the hard work he has put into it. Make sure to keep up to date on all the moves and action during this year's free agency.
Okay, I am so excited, everybody. We are here with one of my closest friends, my former coach, one of my mentors, Quacy Timmons. Some of you might recognize her as Quacy Barnes back in her playing days, but really happy to have you here, Quacy. I miss you. I wish we could get together more than what we have been able to see each other the last year and a half. Gotta love the difficult times, but so happy to have you on the show. So excited to kind of just hear your story and shed some light into kind of what your experience was like and what the league was like back in the time that you played. So welcome. How you doing, Quace?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
What are you up to now? You're coaching. You just got the season just.
Yes, I am coaching high school basketball. Just finishing up my season. My husband and I, we have two lovely daughters that are fourth and sixth grade. And then this fall/winter, we took on my sister's sons. So we have two teenage boys, and we just have a house full. We're owners of Italian Mastiffs. And so basketball has ended, and Mrs. Domesticated has began.
All right, so for everybody listening, Quacy was my coach in college. So I played at Eastern Illinois, and I will never forget the day she came walking through the gym. It was after my freshman year, and I see this extremely tall, like she felt like she was like 6'7" at the time. She's only 6'5", right? Comes walking through the gym, and I was like,
Right.
who is this? This is supposed to be my post coach. And so Quacy, yeah, you coached me for 3 years at Eastern Illinois. So just a little background of her coaching experience. We'll get into that a little bit later, but very influential into my career.
No, I want to. No. I'm Rachel. I'm cutting you off and hopping in right now. I want a complete evaluation of Rachel's game at that time. What was her strength? What was her weakness? I don't know if you know this. Rachel and I have an ongoing bet. We haven't settled it on the court, but you might be like a phone a friend for me for how I can beat Rachel. Talk to me the ins and outs of Rachel's game real quick.
So Rachel Galligan, yes, she was pretty much a walking double-double. So I don't know if you have a chance. Definitely enjoyed coaching Rachel. I always take the time to build the relationship. So I think we established some rapport. And then, I was able to kind of be her Robin when she was Batman going to war on the court. And then junior and senior year, I just clapped a lot, It was like, yes. So she was awesome. Very easy to coach.
You're letting me off way too easy. You guys, she used to pinch my
Oh my goodness
on the bench.
Okay, so the high drama piece that I was not going to mention was Rachel coming out of the game and readjusting her hair. And this was prior to, the thinning job that she has now. And so, yeah, she would come out and readjust this hair. And so finally, I would just like pinch her. And she was like, what? And I'm like, I'm right here. And we got 30 seconds to get our lives together. It was always a we moment. We have 30 seconds to get our lives together. And I'd give her a tip or two and she'd go back out and continue to perform. So that was funny. Yeah, that was good times, Rachel. You fixing that hair.
It was so I was so concerned. Like those were the days. Yeah, those were the days when you had to like iron your hair, and like I have a lot of hair. It
It
was a lot, and
was.
so I was so concerned. I always had to get my hair right. So anyway, it's just funny. I would come back from games with bruises, little baby bruises on the back of my arm because he would pinch me to get my attention. Just crazy.
You know,
But
as somebody
we
who
had
has
some good times.
never
I
No, I was just gonna say, as somebody who's never played and always watched basketball, I have always been so confused with like I have a whole crazy hair thing going on my own, but like if it's not perfect, I am going insane. So I don't understand what the players in the W are doing because I would be consistently distracted by my hair and focusing on like getting it just like even when I play pickup, I'm doing that. I can't like, oh, a curl's out of place
Oh
or
goodness.
a hair's getting in my eye. Then I look at people like Diana
so you,
Taurasi, Sue Bird, whose hair just doesn't move.
Yeah, but they
yeah,
are
that's true. It was
they're the ultimate professionals. So they've got that hair already ready to go. Like that's the last thing they're worried about. This was like amateur, collegiate. I would definitely pinch you too if you start pulling at your hair during a pickup game. So
There we go. That's why I'm bringing you in as my coach when I play Rachel on 1-on-1.
I'd be a traitor.
well,
You can't say that. If you're on my team, where's your allegiance to the team?
I'd be a traitor. I can't trade in Rachel. I can't do that.
exactly. Quace, I want to let's give the listeners a little bit of background. We'll kind of go through the timeline. From a young age, how did you get into basketball up until
Um,
your journey to IU?
so as a young girl, I knew that because I would hear it around the town that my dad had won back to back high school state championships in 64 and 65. But he had me later in life, so I didn't obviously, experience any of that, or I just would hear the whispers. Um, and then I had a sister before me that played. And then there was Lewis and Ruth Harvey. Coach would come to my 7th and 8th grade games and tell me I was going to be this great basketball player one day. And I was laughing because track was my thing. I wanted to run in the Olympics as a 400 runner. And he would say, okay, Olympics, maybe for basketball. And he just kept, being consistent and supporting me and then inviting me in the summers. Um, like I said, my sister played and then I'm next to the oldest. So then it was like, okay, everybody under us kind of played ball and stuff. And Lewis Harvey influenced my family tremendously, him and Ruth Ann. And then he would always say, like, you can go to Europe and play because there was no WNBA. You can go to Europe and play. And I'm like, okay, coach, cool. And you can get a scholarship. You can go to Europe. You're just going to be a fantastic player. You just got to listen to me. And I'm like, okay. And so high school, I would say 8th grade year, I had a really bad injury where I set out for almost a year. I broke my growth plate in my knee. I was probably about 6'3" at the time. And they said, if you stop growing, we're going to go in and break the other leg. And it was just so high dramatic, but ended up growing another inch and a half or so. Both legs grew. And so we're safe. Freshman year, I didn't play high school. Sophomore year, I played. And just every year I got better because I was in the gym for fall basketball in the state of Michigan. Then I practiced with the freshman boys in the winter. And then I was the baseball statistician, or however you want to say that, for the spring. But, in Michigan, you're in the gym for until May almost. And so I just did ball all year round and really improved myself. And I ended up, probably averaging a double double there in high school. And then here comes AAU ball. Here comes Jill Pizzotti. She was at Indiana at the time. And I think Jolette Law recruited me. It was her first year coaching at Ball
Oh
State.
wow.
Who else recruited me? Um, Pat. What is Pat's last name? Charity
Hmm.
at Western Michigan. So those were my choices. And Jill was the Chicago, swagged out coach, very confident.
Yeah.
And she was like, "You're going to Indiana." And I was like, "You're right. I'm coming to Indiana." So she was awesome. And so that's kind of, what happened. I vied for Michigan Miss Basketball my senior year. I played with the Michigan Top Guns, played with some good players there in Southwest Michigan. And I think Nationals for AAU was in Chattanooga. And Teresa Edwards was the opening day speaker, So I just so much great influence in women's basketball. And I felt at home. I felt like this is the sport I needed to be playing.
So you go to IU and you have a really great
Mm-hmm.
career. You're averaging like close to 19 points a game your senior year. You were all
Mm-hmm.
Big Ten first team. In my opinion, I don't know how you're not in the IU Hall of Fame yet. I would like to nominate you for that because I feel like that's just a matter of time. But then let's talk about.
It's been 10 minutes, but I'll second that nomination.
There you go.
There you go.
Um,
There you go. I like it. Well, sometimes things take time, Rachel. I just got my high school jersey retired last
oh,
February.
congratulations!
So that'll go up in the rafters here soon, and that was a great experience to kind of go back home and be appreciated. And sometimes, I mean, I've been out of high school for 26 years.
Yeah.
So I thought they forgot about me, but they didn't. Um and that felt good and warm and wholesome to go home in front of my family and friends and
hmm
be honored in that way.
Well, I mean, yeah, with the career you had, I mean, you ended up you the perfect timing. I mean, the league had been around for 1 year. You were drafted in 1998. Kind of what was that experience like? I mean, did you know you were going to be drafted, or were you kind of sitting around waiting?
Well, so the talk was, if you are a first team all Big Ten kid, you can possibly get drafted to the WNBA. I want to say like around my junior year, I start thinking. I think the ABL was around, and it was talks of the WNBA, and I was like, that's what I want to do. So I mean, me and the other captain on my team, like we got crazy. We went in and talked to Tim Garl on Coach Knight's staff, and we conditioned with the boys basketball team at Indiana for that summer, leading up to my senior year. Because we were like, I mean, I know I was convinced that I could do it, but I knew I had to be in the best shape. I knew I had to improve my skill even more. And that was the thing. If you can make first team all Big Ten, you can do it. And I don't even know where those records are at, but it was 8 of us. It's usually 5, young ladies. It was 8 of us. Like we weren't trying to be denied. And so that was that. I continued to train. I would say I went to Sacramento probably in the best shape of my life. I continued to train, and then I talked to a couple agents, and it was so weird because we had like a shindig at my house, and I was waiting on my phone to ring on draft day. So now, it's like, let me get that tailored dress suit, whatever I need to show up and be on national television. Well, then it was like, let me make sure my phone is charged up
Right.
so I don't miss this phone call. And that's how we got drafted back then. Um, so I had friends over, but I had everybody pretty much quiet, like, hey, I can't miss this call. It's coming. So felt confident about it. Didn't know when it would come. I will say the actual draft camp in Chicago, maybe the top 10 kids weren't there. And I played well, but it was like, okay, the top 10 players aren't here. So now we're looking at 11 to 40.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where am I going in the realm of that? And it was just a good time. It's my whole life I've had an opportunity to just be this competitive spirit. And so, that's what it was. I knew I could do it. I was just waiting on that call.
Did you have any interviews with the teams before? Like, what was that experience like? I mean, most I obviously it's changed a lot over the years, but I'm just very curious.
Mhm.
Most WNBA fans don't even know that they, had a camp for you guys to play each other and for scouts to review you more.
Yeah, so I don't remember personally being interviewed at the draft camp or even thereafter. It was almost like a situation where obviously your SIDs probably prepared something. Your coaches probably knew, those coaches. I don't know. I don't even know how much, the person that drafted me was, and the coach that drafted me was Heidi Vanderveer. I don't even know if Tara being an Indiana alum had something to do with that, or if they just saw, uh, my length and my ability as a true asset to bring me to Sacramento. So I think it was a lot more of your coaches, who they knew. I think it was a lot more behind the scenes jockeying, not like it is now. Now it's everything's in the forefront. It wasn't that. It was kind of, I don't know, it was different. I don't know. I don't know if I have the right words for it, but somebody else spoke for you. That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so
They talked around you, not necessarily to you as the athlete.
right. So at that time, I mean, you got to play with some of the biggest names, like legendary pioneers, like
Mhm. Mhm.
I mean, Coop. Like talk about some of your friends and your teammates and experiences with some of these.
Yes. Yes, so some of the so our draft class was um Tisha Pinachero, Adia Barnes, Copa, and Tangela Smith and myself. So imagine that. That's a lot of talent in one
Yeah.
shebang. And then I arrived to Sacramento, and you have Lady Harmon from Georgia, you have Bridget Gordon from Tennessee, you have Latasha Byers from DePaul. I mean, you just have
Wow.
a plethora of talent just around surrounding you. And then I'm trying to think. You go and you play some preseason games, and there's Natalie Williams from Stanford. And then you go down to LA, and there's Lisa Leslie and Delisha Milne. And it's just like, I mean, when I say the best players in the world, the best in the world. I'm trying to think who else. Mawabi Mabika was on that Sparks team. Who else did we play in the preseason? We didn't get to Cheryl and Coop and Tina and those guys till the actual season started, but
Right.
it was just so much talent around. So many respectable names and so many pioneers. And it's funny because at the time, I played in the league the second to the sixth year, or second to the seventh year. You didn't feel like you were a pioneer of anything. You just felt, well, I personally felt humbled to be in that type of company every day. And it's so funny that first year was, it was different, but the second, third, fourth, fifth year, like I literally would live out of my suitcase. I was like, I gotta be as hungry, you know what I'm saying, as I can be. Like I need to be starving to make this team. Like, so I would not even unpack my bags. I would not get one bit comfortable. And I would just go every day and compete and put myself out there in hopes of, making that final roster.
Well, I have to
So,
ask because I'm looking at
mhm.
your Wikipedia page, which I assume some of the stuff is out of date. But according to this, did you play for the Phoenix Mercury when Cynthia Cooper was the coach?
I did. I
Okay, can you
did.
talk to me
And
about this? Because that is most people don't understand the craziness of like
so,
the
yeah.
greatness of
So,
her.
yes. Oh my goodness. First of all, first class, amazing. So much energy, such a motivator. And I want to say I got released in Seattle, and I wasn't on the wire 20 minutes, and I were like, "You're going to Phoenix." And I'm like, "Okay." I get down there, and the team was good. I think Jennifer Gillum was still playing. I mean, the team was good. It was it was a good team. They were different. I'm personality, and they were all business, and so I didn't understand why people didn't talk. And Coop was like, I don't care if they don't talk. You need to be balling out. Like, I don't care if you don't say a word. And I'm like, what? So, me, I'm like Miss Defense talking, cheering in practice. Like, I'm just the whole personality. And they're looking at me like, you got too much energy, youngin. That's how people were looking at me. But she was awesome. She did something. Now, this was cool. She would challenge anybody. She didn't care. Every day at the end of practice, she gets the ball first. We're playing the one. I bet I can beat you, and she would win every day.
Wow.
I
And you
love
know,
it.
I mean, I never raised my hand. I was good on that. I had chased her around. I had chased her around in some Houston and Seattle Storm games, and they'd be hollering help, and I'm like, I'm here, kind of, sort of. So yeah, no, I never took part in that. I was always observing.
So I just want to ask, I mean, at that time, like, what was the mentality like? I mean, I'm just fascinated because the league, we're entering the 25th season. The league has grown so
Mm,
much, but it's still very much a baby. I've talked with,
hmm
so many players from the past who said, like, at the time, we had to do our own promotion. We were going door to door trying to get fans to come. It was like, what
Oh
was it like?
yes. Now I would. Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off.
You're good. You're good. What was that like?
We were probably overly accessible to our fans. I remember the experiences in Seattle. We had a great fan base, but we did a lot of events and a lot of things to kind of cultivate this following. And it was more intimate, more personable. It wasn't. You got to remember, there was no social media, so everything
Right.
was kind of an event where fans would probably have tickets, or um we would go to different areas in the city, to kind of gain that exposure. And I would say Seattle probably had some of the best fans, if I'm not being biased, and you felt connected to them, and you felt the support, and the love. And we never wanted the summers to end. We could just, Seattle in the summer, I could do that right now. It was beautiful out there, and the people were gracious. I was gracious for the people. Sorry. But yeah, it wasn't like it is now. It definitely wasn't. So I like this idea now that even with the NC2A, players can benefit from their likeness.
Mm,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying, and that there are tools where people can put themselves out there, and have a brand, and sell that brand, and um enhance that brand, like whatever it is. But yeah, back in the day, I think the league did a good job of just promoting, that top, maybe 6 to 8 people. You knew about Rebecca Lobo, you knew about Cheryl Swoops, you knew about Cynthia Cooper, you knew about, and that's kind of where it kind of ended, if you will.
Well, and I think, like,
And now you don't need the league. You can, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
You can create your own. You need the league, but I don't want to say it negatively. You need it, but you can kind of light your own path,
yeah.
if you will.
It's interesting. Like, we always love bringing up the retro commercials, right? Like the Sue Bird Deli commercial,
Uh-huh.
the Cheryl Swoops ones. Like, I mean, there was just so many fun things that were happening in those early years, like the Rebecca Lobo Barbie. I mean, some of those throwback promotions that were happening with the league. I wish we could see more of it now.
Yes.
That type of promotion, and maybe it will come. But yeah, I mean, just interesting at that time frame, and what that was like for you. But you also, I want to kind of segue here. You played a ton all over the world. Like, where all did you play?
Oh goodness. I played in Spain, Italy, Israel, Turkey. I always say Istanbul, but Istanbul is definitely not a country. The people that live there think it's its own country, but it's not. Turkey, South Korea, China, Hungary. Shoosh, I played everywhere.
Legitimately.
Damn.
Um, yeah, legit, and it was awesome experiences. I would always try to like kind of weave and be a part of the culture. I'm not a big foodie anymore, but back then I was down and willing to um kind of embrace the culture, and kind of get right in with the locals, and it was a
Well,
good experience.
I have to ask because
Mhm.
Rachel and I love asking people who have played overseas. I know Rachel has her own horror stories, but there's the very famous story of Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi's, the owner, Shoptai, the owner of their team, getting assassinated during the season. Hopefully, you didn't have any experiences similar to that.
I did
But
not, but you know what? I wasn't the top tier kid that was playing in Russia either. So hey,
but tell us
I
some
played
crazy
in
stories,
Western
because
Europe.
it was probably it was a different time, and you're playing over there. It's not you probably didn't have everybody doesn't have a cell phone back then. The internet isn't
Oh
as
no,
crazy where it's so
yeah,
easy to
it was dial
communicate back
up.
and forth. Yeah, exactly. Like you're going dial up to call your friends back home or whatever. I mean,
Uh,
you were part of what we all hear about, right? These
yes.
amazing women's basketball players going overseas to make a living because you're not getting that over in America. And there's a lot of ups and downs that you experienced over there. So give us a little sneak peek.
Hmm.
And
Well,
besides the
some of
fact
the
that
craziest things that I've seen. So one of the craziest things that I experienced was being in Turkey. And you would go play like Fenerbahce or Galatasaray in those big games, and the fans would light coins with a
Oh my
lighter
God.
and throw them at the players. Not making that up.
What?
Another crazy experience was everybody smoked. So people would smoke in the gyms. Um, I had teammates that smoked, and I'm like, how can you run and smoke? Like that doesn't go together. Um, we were obviously another this is a good one. They didn't shave their armpits and stuff. So now that I'm like, listen, babe, you gotta get that together. So Europe was definitely it was some kookiness, some craziness going on over there. Let me think. What else was mm.
how was the language
Oh,
barrier?
um okay, so in Spain, I played with Amaya Valdemoro, who and I lived with her, and she spoke English, so I cheated so bad. I wish she was not present to help me cheat, and I wish I could have learned Spanish. I understood more than I could say. But then some of the other countries, I would just kind of move in silence. Now Israel, everybody spoke English, and in Turkey, I was in Istanbul. I was in the big city, so majority of the people spoke English. But in Italy, nobody spoke English. In Spain, I was in a town where a few people spoke English. Basketball transcends though, and then obviously in Korea, China, places like that, you had a translator. But if you start writing X's and O's on the board, I'm good. You really don't have to talk to me about it.
It's an international language, right? But I do want to
It is.
ask, nowadays players spend all their free time watching Netflix, maybe learning another language. What did you spend your free time doing? Because you're only playing basketball for however many hours.
Right. Well, some on some teams I played in my country, and then I would play in European competitions. So I did
Hmm.
travel. When I played teams with European competition, we would travel every week outside of the country. So that took up a little bit of time. But Spain, I'll go to that. My first experience, I went there for 9 months, and I read 17 books.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I started reading books because I was spending all my money trying to like call home and paying for internet, and that barely worked and stuff like that. And there was cable, but it was like I'm already paying for the phone, so I just kind of got in. We'll go to little bookstores and find like English books and do some reading and stuff like that. Um, and then thinking next countries. It was just really it was a time to chill. I mean, there were parties and stuff like that, and there was a nightlife. So I'm sure I did my fair share of that, but
Did you
it was a
similar
time to chill. It was a time to chill out
Yeah,
and
and you
just
deserve
relax.
it.
Yeah.
You're working your body
Yeah.
like crazy. I mean,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
nowadays we hear about, oh, this player from Seattle is playing this player from Minnesota, so after the game they go hang out. Did you have that experience where you were going up against, let's say, Galatasaray, who had some other player that you had played against in the
Yeah.
W, and then you're able to kind of hang out and have that relationship?
Oh yeah, we were close knit. I mean, the WNBA, as competitive as it is, you know, if you were in the same country, like Istanbul, it was probably 8 teams. I mean, Leslie Johnson was over there, Danielle McCulley was over there, Stacey Lovelace. I mean, some of the girls that I played against, and we weren't on the same team, but we would compete, and then when that game ended, you get showered up and dialed up, and you go out and have a dinner and laugh and talk, and so yeah, no, I think it's definitely a sisterhood to the WNBA where people have a mutual respect for each other. They compete now on the court.
Right.
But off the court, yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely a sisterhood.
So at what point in your career was it time to hang it up, and did you know that you wanted to become a coach?
Oh, Rachel. Well, so there's most people that know me know that I was a teen mom, and I had a little boy at home, and he just kept getting older and older, and I thought, Quacy. And I think I signed a contract late. My last year, I signed a contract to go to Germany, and I had gotten everything ready to bring him with and homeschool him and do all this fancy stuff. And I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? You need to get a job. You need to get a real job. And as a player, you need that competitiveness. So the next thing that you do has to be like ultra competitive. And you know, I think college coaching was the next best thing, you know. And I kind of asked around, I started digging around, and I'm like, I could do that. I would love to do that. And it still included travel with the recruiting piece,
Mm-hmm.
and mixing and mingling, with people. And so that's what I did. I went back to IU, um, and I was able to, still travel with recruiting. I was still able to compete, at that highest level of basketball, and, helping um, the young ladies along, and, sharing my experience and my journey with them, and be a mom. And so it was just perfect. It was a perfect transition, if you will.
Yeah. So you spent time. You were at Austin P, correct? And then you came and coached me at Eastern Illinois, and then you went down to
Hmm.
you were at Tuskegee. Wait, what's
Then I came down to Georgia, and I was at Columbus State,
Columbus State,
Columbus State for 3 years.
Tuskegee, and then Indiana State? I mean, you
And then I went to
yeah,
Tuskegee. Mhm.
you have a really extensive coaching
Yeah,
background.
I think I think yeah, for 17 years it was an awesome ride. I enjoyed it. Like I said, it was always that competitive space. I needed the competitiveness.
Yeah.
Um, and then I really took pride in, mentoring young women, and helping them, reach their dreams and goals, and there was always some laughs along the way with that. And some tears, and some good times, and some bad times, and challenging times. I just enjoyed being able to give back, in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the last few years of my career, it just got to, okay, you have daughters of your own.
Right. Yeah.
And so then again, you're searching for that competitive space where you can do all. You can do all, be all. So 7A basketball in the state of Georgia. I'm still teaching. I even mentor kids and love on kids that aren't athletes in high school. So it's a fun space. And then I can still be mom
Yeah.
to my girls,
Yeah.
and auntie to my nephews. So now I'm like mama, auntie, coach, or
Right.
auntie, mama, coach. It just depends on what kid we're referencing at the time.
Yeah. it's it's always amazed me, Quace, like everything that you've been able to do and everything you've been able to accomplish, and just been through with life. And I know your faith plays a major aspect of that, and you just have been a major role model for me. And I want everybody to hear that and to know that, because it's the women like you who help the younger girls like me become the woman that I am today. And I really hold you to a high pedestal for that. And
Aw.
I love you to death. And I love asking this question. And I know I'm getting very deep right now, but it's true. It's so true. And I'm very
Yeah.
thankful for you. But I want to ask, for the young girls out there, in Michigan or, anywhere in the world that has an aspiration of playing this game or playing any sport and reaching the highest level, what advice would you have for them?
Ooh, well, thanks for your warm sentiments. And I would just say for young girls, your work ethic is so, so important. I would say dreaming big is important. Work ethic is important. And just being competitive. I think sometimes I would say I'll use my girls for an example. They are in the volleyball right now and they are competitors when they're out there. And I was laughing at them because they compete in Uno. And we do a little basketball here and there, but they have that competitive spirit already. Whether it's, in the pool, they're racing each other, playing card games, they're competing. I'm like, okay, it's time to put them up. So I would say just once you figure out, okay, I like something, I would say work hard at it, dream, dream big. Um, and then I would also say just stay competitive. I think a competitive nature, competitive spirit is going to propel you in this life, no matter what it is. If it's sports, if it's your job, if it's, you just got to continue to compete and you got to find things that motivate you to compete as you go along your journey.
All right, I got a few questions for you.
Okay.
You've dropped some knowledge. Rachel likes to get all serious. I like to have a little bit more of a good time. She was talking very
Mhm.
kind to you. I actually have extreme beef with you because you told me that you wouldn't be my coach, and if you were my coach, you would help Rachel. So we got beef. But talk to me. You've played a plethora of leagues, a plethora of amazing talents. Who was I don't want to say did you have a rival, but who was the toughest player that you ever went up against?
Oh my goodness. So it has to be Lisa Leslie. She tortured me, okay? Because I was young and green and really inexperienced, and we would have to play them for preseason and then turn around and play them 4 times for the regular season. And I thought, can't somebody else guard her on my or try? Let me get this right. Try to guard her on this team. And then it was days where we brought the whole kitchen sink and she scored anyway. Um and I just think that just the combination, her alongside like a Delisha Milne, it was just fits all day. So but Lisa Leslie probably is one of the top. I do remember games um where Houston would play Cheryl in the post. They play her at the four and places like that. And it was like, put your running shoes on and just chase her around. So yeah, it was a lot of good talent to go up against, but I would definitely have to say Lisa.
Actually, that you just made me think of this. How scary were the Houston comments during those years? Because you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because like we talk about dominating teams, you talk about
Oh,
sports dominating teams. You think of the Bulls during Michael Jordan. You think of the Minnesota Lynx
mm,
during that 7 year span. But no team has done, at least unless I got knocked over the head with something and I can't find
uh-huh,
anything on the internet. No team has done a four-peat. No team has pulled it off
yeah,
like the Houston Comets. And we often look back and some people try and knock it that, oh, the league was still young and blah, blah, blah. But that
uh-uh.
is an amazing feat. How scary was it to be on the opposite sideline?
Very. So let's put this into, and I don't remember. I always remember the big names: Cheryl Swoops, who shot the NBA three; Tina Thompson, who shot the NBA three; Cynthia Cooper, who shot the NBA three. So it was like, okay, if you don't cover the three, they're gonna make it, and if you cover it, they're gonna go by you. And as a post player, I remembered some of the good guards in the league, like the Coops of the world, coming. I'm like, at least slow them down if you want me to help you. Like, give me a chance to get a block, okay? Don't send somebody down this lane going 100 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always funny, the best were like half times, we would give I remember a halftime Adia will kill me for telling this. I remember a halftime Adia was trying to guard Coop, and Adia was a great athlete. You know, longer than a Cynthia Cooper, and she was just like, "Oh my God, this is so frustrating." She would be like that, like going crazy at halftime. And I'm like, it's frustrating for everybody because they were just so good. So I know that I remember that specifically. One of our half times was all about like, oh my goodness. You know what I mean? It was like you got on this roller coaster at, Disney and you were ready to get off of it.
Wow.
Kind of. That's a good way to sum it up.
That's
So,
yeah, that sounds yeah. I mean, I imagine it as when you were like a sixth grader and you're going up against like the ninth grade team and you're like, well, we're gonna play our best and
mhm.
hopefully, they play their worst and then maybe we'll have a chance.
Yeah.
No offense to anybody, but like the Houston
Yeah,
Comets are just,
they were
historically,
good.
oh my god, they're just
They were very good. And those were just, I mean, I'm trying to think. It was a couple more women that were extraordinary on that team. I think Amaya played with Houston. There were some, a couple of foreign guards on there that I probably can't pronounce their names and don't remember their names, but they were stacked.
Yeah.
They were those three, big three, or they were good, but everybody on that roster was good.
Mm-hmm.
You
I'm
know.
not jealous of you for playing against Cooper and then being coached by her. I don't know if this ever happened, but I just imagine her talking smack as a coach. Like, remember that game this many years ago when we put up this on you? Like, I could very well see her talking smack as a coach.
She did not do that. She just had this her presence, just reminded you. She didn't have to say anything. You knew.
You
You know what I
knew.
mean? You already knew. But now I will go back. Go ahead,
No,
Rachel.
I remember Quacy being at the Final
Okay.
Four, some Final Four, and Cynthia Cooper was across the street. I don't get very like fangirlish very often. Like I don't get super starry eyed, around. But Coop, my God, she was
I
like,
think we're in Dallas.
yeah, it might have been Dallas, but I literally was like, oh my God, that's Cynthia Cooper, and you were like, what up, Coop? And I could not believe that you were friends. And I think at that moment I had this like complete like meltdown of my coach, my friend is friends with Cynthia Cooper. I remember just being like so uptight and freaking out in the street. It was so funny to me. Like you said, she has that presence. It was, and you could feel it even at that time.
Yes, definitely. Now I will say, my years in Seattle playing for Lynn Dunn, she would always go back and crack a old Indiana Purdue joke. She did not ever let that go. And in her days, it was rough for Indiana. It was hard to beat them. And then I think once she left, they were still really good. They won a national championship after her, but Indiana broke a little ground there. I think my senior year we beat them a couple times, and we warred with them all the time. That was our big in-state rival, Indiana Purdue. But yeah, she would bring up Indiana Purdue stuff, and it wasn't always pleasant. I'm like, okay, coach, like, but she'd bring that back up. So, but Coop didn't do that. She was totally like, it was almost like I've arrived kind of feel from her. But warm when you talk to her. But if she's just standing there, I'm like Rachel, like, wow.
Coop's one of those players where I always reference this. Kevin Garnett had his old show, Area 21, and one of the episodes he had Coop and Lindsay Whalen, and they're sitting there, and somebody said something about like who would win the Lynx or the Comets, and it was just a great experience to watch Coop be like, "Oh, no question, we would dominate. No one on their team can cover me. No one could stop me. And if you think about stopping me, you're not going to. But I'll pass it to somebody else, and you're not stop." Like the confidence that she exudes, I think, is something that we don't often see on the women's side, at least, and I love it. I think it makes you gravitate towards that type of player and say, "I'm on their side." Yeah, or and even if not, you stand there and say you're going to beat Cynthia Cooper, she's going to make you look like a fool. So I just love her personality. She's a player I've admired for many, many years, and I love that you got
Yes,
to not
yeah.
only play against her but be coached
Play
by
for
her.
her. That was
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
that must have been. I mean, like just being able to be, the little tidbits, the little conversations that you have. I know, Rachel speaks very highly of those similar situations that she had with you, but then for you to have that with someone that you've competed with, I feel like is just next level. So that's
Mhm.
I really appreciate you dropping some knowledge on us and opening your eyes with these stories.
Yes, I have enjoyed myself thoroughly. I've enjoyed myself.
Well, thank you Quacy, thank you for joining us. Love you to death. We'll have you back on talking some hoops, hopefully later on this summer. And we will catch you next time. Thank you, everybody.